Hello, everybody. It's very good to be with you, and it's been a long time, has it not? I was just counting it up, and it's nearly a year since I have had this chair of power and stood in front of you and told you spent some time with you in deep foolishness, which is what we're going to do here today. The reason, for those of you who've known me for some time, then you know that I've been ill for a couple of years, and that I have had a surgery, and I'm back at the wheel now, and in recovery. But and the recovery is long and slow, but it's still, I'm feeling much better and doing much better every single day. So if you've had any concerns about my health, I think you can drop those. There have been a lot around here, and we have dropped them too. The body does not matter, but it sure as hell counts, because the body is the instrument through which we have experience. And when I say we, I really mean the one we, the only we. I can say that I am awakeness, or awareness, as some of you prefer. And that's true. But you can say the same thing, because what's looking through my eyes is the same thing that's looking through yours. And you may think I'm talking to a big group right now, and probably a lot of people will watch this, but I'm not talking to a big group. I'm talking to you. I swear to God, I'm talking to you, because there's nobody else here for me to talk to. There's just one thing going on in the universe. The universe itself is just one thing. And there's no inside or outside. There's just this. And you can't even really label it universe, because that gives the indication that there's a beginning and an end, and there is not. There's no beginning and no end. And the same goes for the topic that I want to go into today, which is, I want to talk to you about Bhakti. In India, where this all comes from initially, there are different yogas, that different paths. Yoga meaning, well, it really means hitch. It's like being hitched to God. But there are different paths by which we become hitched to God. And there's Jnana Yoga, which is what the living method is. It's really a form of Jnana, Jnana, for those of you keeping score at home. Jnana Yoga. And what we want to talk today, which is the yoga of intellect, the yoga of knowledge. And that's the path by which we wake up. And what we're going to talk about today is Bhakti Yoga, which seems to be almost the reverse. And I thought of it that way for a long time, of the reverse of Jnana Yoga. And I kind of looked down on Bhakti Yoga followers, because Bhakti is the yoga of devotion. And these people were devoted very, very much to their gurus. And I'm not sure that some of that wasn't out of place. It would be here. But I notice that people love me anyway. They love me because they love themselves. What they love this unit, because you can't tell the difference. You can't long look at this thing and keep it in mind that this thing is actually, that is you talking to you. The human mind will switch it into the fact that, you and Fred are having a conversation, and this will automatically become Fred. In your mind, it's not true, but in your mind, and you will you'll either come to believe that Fred is an idiot and not worth being on YouTube, or you'll come to believe that Fred is enlightened, which is not true. It can't be true, because there's no Fred. But it feels like there's a Fred, and it looks like there's a Fred to you, sounds like there's a Fred, and those I can't think of those signs of a Fred tend to be assigned to be a Fred. In other words, we invent a character. And this is God talking to God, and God is just most comfortable doing it as units, at least on this plane, in this in this universe. And in Well, and here we are. And so this, and just so you know, I recently, about 6 weeks ago, or was it, or maybe it's 8 weeks ago, but I underwent 11 hours of back surgery. That's a long time for an old man to spend under the sway of anesthesia. And there are little bubbles that come up sometimes, and I can't reach a word that I'm trying to. And what's coming through here is as clear as a bell, but the unit sometimes is balking in its attempt to be used, because the unit is a tool. The unit's not doing this talking. The unit is just like this. The unit's the thing that I'm talking through. The microphone is the thing that the unit is talking through. You can hear me because of the microphone, and the microphone can hear me because there's a unit here. No unit, no need for a microphone. No unit, no conversation between you and I. So we tend to be, in this teaching, we don't rule out the value of relativity, because it in the end, I understand that it may not be all that important in an absolute sort of way, but it sure is in a relative way, and we don't dismiss relativity here. We address it. We try to live it as consciously and as smoothly and as kindly as we can in a skillful way. This matters, or at least it counts. Even if it doesn't matter, it counts a lot. The way that we treat each other counts a lot. The path that the carbon trail that we leave on the planet matters a lot. The gentleness with our neighbor, the simply following, stopping at streetlights. It's a form of it's self-preservation, but it's also a form of being polite. Some people are polite, some people aren't. I see people run red lights all the time. They think that they're in a hurry, but that's because they think there's actually somebody in that car. Which is just foolhardy, but we can't not believe it until we don't. So I want to talk to you about Bhakti, because for number one is that in this experience that I have gone through, I went into surgery on July the 5th. And July the 6th, or the night of July 5, and the whole day of July 6, and days and weeks. And I managed to see hell. That's about the only way I can put it. I was in hell. I was hell. I don't know how you even put that. Just unbelievable. The pain was just extraordinary. I was not treated well. I was not treated. The medicines were not handed out as they should have been, as my surgeon and I had agreed upon. But he doesn't have all the power in the hospital, unless he's right there. The real power in the hospital is the little attendants, the low people on the bottom of the totem pole, because those are the people that actually meet the patients. And they decided to torture this one. And I don't know if someone did some extra opsy or whatever, but it didn't end up in my veins. And I was on a morphine drip. And that made me crazy, but at least I wasn't in pain. And when they took that off, I was crazy and in pain. So to come from there to here, where I'm back in this chair, is just, it's unbelievable. I never thought it would happen. Nobody thought it would happen at the hospital. They actually wrote me off as having dementia. And a talk from Betsy Hackett Davis straightened that shit out. And I began to get a little different treatment, and I began to respond really well. That's a long story that I've told elsewhere, and I don't want to repeat it here. If you go back and look at we won't find it on many of the videos on the net, but there's be some reference to some of the shorts that have come out recently, I imagine. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the great discovery, the great gift of all of this pain and anguish and unconsciousness because I went completely unconscious there for a little while. It was crazy as hell. As general consciousness began to return, then there was some sense that everything was okay, which drove the unit crazy because it couldn't figure out why everything was okay when what it looked at looked awful, terrible. It felt terrible, right? But that's just what things looked like and what felt like. And it felt like it was very, very wrong. That wasn't right either. But the gift of this is that somewhere in all that anguish, something opened up here. And this thing has always progressed through pain and anguish. I never had a big spiritual experience on a good day, I don't think. And people don't usually come to me as clients or students on their best day either. You know, it's just usually, God Almighty, I just can't stand it anymore. Where we're no longer negotiating with God, and it comes down to, I'll even talk to this old fool, this old charlatan on the on YouTube. Is the way that we sometimes feel about it. I felt about some of the teachers like that too, and who knows about some of them. But you'll have to judge for yourself about this one. But I can tell you that this one, not this, the teaching that comes through this unit, it doesn't have anything to do with this unit. Doesn't have anything to do. There is no Fred Davis, so it can't possibly have to do with Fred Davis. The love that I'm talking about is the love of God. And you know what? There's one thing going on. So you know what God loves? God loves God. Love loves love. And when through anguish, sometimes something can rise to the top where we stop negotiations, which is, I'll be happy, I'll be good if, I'll be okay if, I'll accept this if. And there's just a total crumbling. There's just, I mean, I've had this happen before, perhaps not quite to this level. It doesn't feel like it was to this level because there has been a new level of clarity. There's probably been a level of slowing down. There's a new gentleness here. Although, you know, if you've been in satsang and you've really misbehaved, you've probably heard the other side of it too. It's still a little too quick to call people down when they're, if you come to my satsang, please be respectful. Let's put it that way. You don't need to see anything else. And being respectful means telling the truth. And we want to tell the truth about our experience here. And let's tell the truth about the love that we can't really say the love for each other because there's no each other. There's no other. See, in oneness, there's just oneness. So oneness loves oneness. Now, oneness loves oneness, period. Oneness does not need this expression of relativity. It doesn't need it in order, but it needs it in order to experience. And when oneness uses somehow, who knows? I don't know how the ins and odds and ends of all this stuff. I'll leave that to smarter folks than me. I don't know a damn thing, and I wish I knew less than that. I'm not trying to learn. I'm trying still to forget what I think I know, because that's what got me in trouble all the time. All my whole life, I made assumptions that were dead wrong. And if you're listening to this and you're not awake at this very moment, forget about what you saw yesterday or 2 days ago or a week or a year or back in the 60s or anything like that. If you're not awake right now, then you really need to listen up, because this talk through this unit has the power to wake you up. It does. And the unit can take no credit. It wishes it could. There's still a human side here that would very much like to yay Fred and all that. All that still exists. It just doesn't play through. But I can still see it. There's a little string pulling, but there's just no action on this side of it. So there's still a sense of a me here. There's a sense of that there's, it's not really a something that I have in mind as to what it is. I don't know what I am, but I don't need to know what I am, so I've quit looking. That might be a secret for you. They call seeking. But the funny thing is, in the seeking community, You hear very little bit about finding. You'll hear very little about, we hear about enlightenment as a goal, but not so much as a reality, unless it's the teacher that's enlightened. And or you and me are out here we're in the bleacher seats, and we just want to be that woman or that guy because they are the enlightened ones. There's 150 pounds of enlightened meat on the stage, and we wish we were that 150 pounds of that enlightened meat. And we can't wait until this 150 pounds of enlightened meat can get up on the stage and look important and sound important and be thought of as important by others too. All of that stuff plays through the mind. It played through mind. Nobody gets here really that easily, except for those that appear to. But this one had a really, really hard, long road of seeking, 24 years of it. And the funny thing is that the seeking never really ended. It was just seen through. And it's like, imagine that you're walking to the North Pole and you get to the North Pole. It says right there, the sign. And it says North Pole, you are here. Now what do you do? you lost it because you were on the way to, everything was about getting to the North Pole. The way that you thought, the way that you dressed, the way that you ate, the way that you did everything was all about how can I get to the North Pole? And then you get to the North Pole and what? And this can be the way that awakening can occur too, is that in all of our lives, we've been seeking, and then there is an awakening, but it's quiet. It's not showy like we've all read about. Awakenings can be showy. I've had a couple. I've had others that were just, you couldn't tell. You could be in the same room with me and never know. And I have had lots of students that have had big showy awakenings. Not so many now as I did, because this teaching is simply so much more effective than it used to be years ago. I used to see people explode all the time because they had to go a long way in order to wake up with me. Now you don't have to go long at all. For some people, I'm not sure that I really have to say much in order for people to wake up. The reason I say that is that I have clients and students who, and what are clients and students? They're friends of mine. You give them different words and none of them really fit. So I'm going to call them clients and students and friends, and they all mean the same thing, which is they're just people that hang out with this unit, okay? And then, which means that they're probably going to be people who somewhat believe in some of the things or have a structure of reality, if you will, or an unstructure of reality that sort of go along with this one. But to get back to Bhakti, and so you see how I wander? If you think I used to wander, try it now. It's very hard for this thing to really stay on a track because there's nothing here to stay on a track, and there's no track. There's just words arising here. They're not Fred's words, they're not my words. I don't even know what I am. How do I know what words to form or what to do? Only thing I can do is witness what's going on and report on it as it happens. And I do that through, it happens. I don't do it. It just happens through eyes and ears and feelings and all of that. And, but we always thought that this body was the end user of the senses, and they're not. This whole body is just a sensing device, so that awakeness itself can experience relativity, so that it can experience itself objectively. Because you experience yourself subjectively all the time, but you don't know it. You just experience that as Fred. When Fred has a good idea or a bad idea or any idea at all, then you say, that was my idea. But you never look at who are you referring to when you say my. You think, well, I'm referring to this body. But if you do, just don't spend much time with me, or you can come to find out that the body is not you. You'll hear a lot about how you are not the body, but I prefer the body is not you, because we don't start out denying that the body is us by referring to it, which is, I am not the body. The meantime, I'm doing this to the body, referring to the body. So the body is not you. And if the body's not you, what's left? What if the body wasn't you? What if that body over there disappeared right this moment? I've seen this one disappear. Others have told me about their bodies disappearing. But nobody has told me about what happened while they were disappeared, because it's not as if the body died and ceased to function as a sensing device. It's just that the body itself, it just evaporates. I mean, it's pretty easy for something to evaporate when it's not really here. And that's a lofty thing to say. And it may be too early for that for some of you, but for some of you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Many of you, in fact, because this unit has had the joy to be around many, many hundreds. It could even be a couple of thousand. I have no idea, but many, many hundreds of students as they woke up through the living method that comes to pour through this unit, which is just a complete freak of nature. There, you cannot deserve enlightenment, because if you did, I wouldn't be here. And you may think that you don't deserve enlightenment, but wait till you hear my story. And then you will see, well, God Almighty, if that guy can wake up, anybody can. I don't have to deserve it. I don't have to do everything just right. And because this thing was capable of doing very little just right, if anything. And now it just doesn't do anything at all. It still doesn't do things right. It just doesn't do things at all. It doesn't do things wrong either. This unit is still a sensing device, but the sensing is on both sides, in the sense that I take in the awakeness, take in the information that this body feeds to me, and there's a loop, a feedback loop, where I also respond to the body, chiefly through conditioning. I mean, it's not like I'm up there with, where's my Harry Potter wand? It's been a long time since I've been here, and it's going to be a long time yet, because I can't stand up to go get that Harry Potter wand. So I'll just use this ruler instead. And there's not going to be a time, although I have done it just for fun, where I put you on the shoulders like the knighthood or something and say, arise and go out enlightened, or, arise and go forth and sin no more. And it's just not like that. It can be pretty spectacular. And when we, but it chiefly is not. And that's what we're all expecting, because that's what we all want, is that big thing. Because we think that big experience will convince us I really did awaken. But it's going to be just like arriving at the North Pole. There's the sign, I'm at the North Pole. What do? I turn around and I go looking for the North Pole, because the only thing I know to do in life is look for the North Pole. It never really occurred to me that I could find it, and that I could perhaps live at the North Pole. And in our experience here, we actually come to live not at awakeness, but as awakeness. Everybody wants to live in peace, but I find that there are far fewer takers for living as peace. But you have a good opportunity to live as peace. And I say that because you're sitting in front of this. And this is not special. But what I have noticed is that things that sit around this a lot, they tend to wake up. They tend to clear up. I have students who will tell me that they walk to the song or our talk, one-on-one talks with people sometimes, every month with some. And so at any rate, and the screen opens, they look at me, and the world has changed. They're suddenly, they're just more at ease. Because that's what it is like for you. It's not what it's like for me. There's no Fred over here. There's only awakeness, and awakeness that knows itself to be awakeness doesn't live in peace, it lives as peace. And it brings peace. It radiates peace. And that brings up that bhakti. I want to just take a quick aside here. I want to read you something that by Ramana Maharshi, because it's going to speak to this bhakti and bring it straight into Jnana Yoga, which is really what he taught. And I find the email that I sent to myself. And I can do that by going, I left it in the inbox at the bottom. Yes. So this is Ramana Maharshi, who was an Indian teacher, very famous, lived and like God himself. And he lived, or herself, just happens to be a guy, but there's nothing sexist in this, I assure you. But he lived in India from the turn of the beginning of the 20th century till I think the 50s it was that he died. So he was dead about the time I was born. But I would have loved to have met him. I would have loved to have met Nisargadatta, which is another teacher that I'm fond of. But I am Nisargadatta and I am Ramana Maharshi. I need not meet them. I can meet the words here on this page and know that I have met myself. And this reads that there is a state beyond our efforts or effortlessness. Until it is realized, effort is necessary. There is a state beyond our efforts or effortlessness, and that's the state that I try to help you introduce you to. Until it is realized, effort is necessary. So there's effort in the living method, and it'll be effort until there's not. But one way or the other, after tasting such bliss, even once, one will repeatedly try to regain it. And that is your experience, probably. You probably had an awakening experience. If not, and you're hanging out on this channel, I'm sorry that you will. Read some of this unit's books, hang out at its website, watch the YouTube videos. You got a wonderful chance. And have a conversation with this. Come to satsang, your odds go up. Have private meetings, they just go up, just the way it works. After tasting such bliss even once, one will repeatedly try to regain it. Having once experienced the bliss of peace, no one wants to be out of it or to engage in any other activity. And I'm talking to you, those who say, well, there's no point in my getting off the couch. I've seen that there's nothing to be done and there's no one to do it. And yeah, but you're not going to be able to stay on that couch. They're going to throw you out if you don't pay the rent. And I noticed that there's a keen understanding that there's no such thing as a Betsy or a Willie or a Jack, but I love my little family to death and completely devoted to them. But absolutely, I mean, the idea that I would die for them, I can't die, but I'm willing for this body to be blanked out if it will help those survive, because a little secret from me to you is that in the ICU, in the intensive care unit, when there was a breakdown in who I was, and it was just total hell, I asked God to kill the unit. I prayed to die. And, it didn't go. See, I always thought that what I was saying really meant a lot, and that my opinions counted to God and the universe, and they don't. But you have to find out that. So this bhakti, so what happened is, having been thoroughly crushed, there was being reborn. The Christians call it being born again. It's a pretty apt phrase. There are a lot of Christians who claim to be born again that I can tell you are not. But there are some other Christians, and I have met some of them, who can claim to be born again, and indeed they have been. And a Zen master, a yogi, these are people who have been born again, literally. And when you are born again, what you are born again as is love. In other words, your true nature comes to be radiating out of this. And we're going to have a sort of, I'm going to have another video on this Bhakti, because there's really just barely an introduction. But I want to have another video on this. I want you to understand what it is. I want you to begin to feel what it is. Maybe you can feel it now. I can't feel really anything else. I noticed that there's a toe down there that is uncomfortable, and I just love it. I don't know why. I just love you, and I don't know why. And you just love me, but you may not know it yet. Or you may know it, but you may not know why. It doesn't matter. I don't want this to run too long. God Almighty, gone for a year and back for an hour. But I do love you very much. I thank you for, I hope you will share this so that a lot of people can come and get back into the living method if you've wandered, and come back to the home of Awakening Clarity Now. That's my website. Living Method is the program that we teach. We teach it through living teachers. I am a living teacher of the living method. I was the first that this came through. There's a second now. Her name is Glenda. And there's a third one coming up as well. And you can meet him today if you attend our satsang. Then you can meet our newest teacher of the living method at the end of for the last hour of the satsang that's coming up. And he's marvelous. His name is Bo. You're going to love him. I love him. A lot of people love him. I haven't talked to a lot of people who don't. He's still in training, if you will, but his training is beyond imagination. I mean, his level is already beyond imagination. So don't worry about where he's at. Don't worry about where I'm at. Don't worry about where Glenda's at. Find out what you are. And then you'll find out that there's no at. I love you very much. Appreciate your showing up here and spending this time with me. I'll see you again very soon. It's not going to be another year. Maybe a day or two. We'll see. Who knows? But I will be back, and we will discuss Bhakti further. We'll discuss more love, because there's not anything else to talk about. See you. Bye for now. I love you.